turn 40 in December, so it's pretty amazing to look back at a place like Sewanee. I'm an educationalist. I sort of have my sort of theories and frustrations with Sewanee sometimes, but when I look back at people, Dixon, Nikki Hamilton, people who've been part of my life for more than half my life now. I've known these folks since 1995. People like Kim Heizenritter, increasingly Lisa, other people who've been part of my development. It's always a lovely thing to come back here and reconnect with those folks. Because I think one of the things that really is special and powerful about Sewanee is that Sewanee isn't a four-year school. It really is a lifetime connection to people, to the people that you know here and the people who are on staff and on faculty, and so much less of a hierarchy of who's faculty and who's somebody else in the institution. Those people matter to you, people who worked at the BC desk, like Barbara, who we run into 10 years from now. We will still be as glad to see you as somebody who was your advisor and still know as much about your story as they did then. So thank you for the opportunity to be here. Thank you especially for the honor of getting to speak to the group. Very humble out of all the folks who are here. I don't know that my experience is very different or adds very much, but we'll try just to kind of blend some of the ideas I've heard this morning. So I just want to say a little bit about what I do. And then say a little bit about maybe some of the synthesis and some points that I took away from this morning and some reflections I had as I was writing up this morning. And then just open up for some questions. And I'll try to keep to time. So I'll get my clock out here and make sure I don't keep us more than we need to be. Right now, I'll say that right now, I have my own research and consulting company that I started 2 years ago. So I work full-time as a consultant. The company is called Inaugural Research. We focus on participatory action research and institutional analysis. A lot of that is in international spheres. I'll be going to Uganda next Saturday. I'll be there doing some peacekeeping research for 2 weeks, working with community leaders doing participatory action research, and then doing trainings with Ugandan military who will then be deployed under the African Union aegis as UN peacekeepers. I'll then go to Kenya and do the similar training for action research with community leaders there, youth who are sort of vulnerable to being engaged by groups like Al-Shabaab, Al-Qaeda, youth who are a bit marginalized and are very vulnerable to that kind of seduction. So we're trying to work with them and finding other things that are interesting, exciting opportunities to let them stay more in control of their lives and more in the mainstream. And then I'll also be in South Africa doing some organizational research with a research think tank that works on spatial inequalities around townships in Cape Town. So that's a month in my life that sort of gives you a little bit of a sense of what my company does and what I do. I have sort of taken a long path to that, and I'll get into that more as I go on, but just as an offer, you have my contact information in the packet that Lisa and Dixon have put together. If some of the things that I say are interesting to you, relevant to you, please be in touch, let me know. As all the sort of speakers here, we've all been in your shoes. We know what it feels like to be leaving this place and kind of what the stress connected with that is. But I would just say, don't worry about it. There are people here on campus to support you. There are people like us who are happy to give you advice and give you contacts and help you extend your network in ways that we can. And really, this is your last, those of you who are seniors, this is your last 5 months in Sewanee as students. Stop stressing, just enjoy it. It's a really special time in your life. I was telling this to Nora last night. This is a really special moment. You can come back and work in Sewanee in other ways. It's not the same as being a student. So don't let comps somehow give you, a cold all through March while you're stressing about that. If somehow you have pre-traumatic stress disorder about comps, or somehow you can't get this, squared away, or you're worried about your thesis or this, that, or the other. And certainly don't be worried about what comes next in some sort of way that's giving you anxiety and nausea, because I really don't think that's something that you can control. And I think that's what you heard so very clearly from everyone who's spoken to you this morning. There's not a right answer. I really appreciate Ronald's idea of the beautiful collisions. Like, you don't know, and don't worry about it, because the collisions, even if they give you a bloody nose, you'll make something good out of it. Some of them will be beautiful collisions, some will be a little bit more, a little more aggressive sometimes, and you won't know that that was a good thing. But in the long term, it probably will be. I'm sure some of you have read Parker Palmer's work he talks about the idea of your heart breaking, but he says it can break in two different ways. And there's sort of the bad way where it breaks like a piece of glass and it shatters and you sort of get taken down and you're sort of lost. But he also says you can also turn that into your heart breaking open and you find a deeper layer of meaning inside that tragedy or that collision and you move forward in a very powerful way. So I think no matter where you go from here, whether you get the job that you want, whether you get the internship that you want, you find yourself working, in some job that you really don't want and living in your parents' basement, it'll be okay for a while. That won't be forever. The next thing will come and you will rise up and you'll move forward. So I just want to say a couple of things based on what I heard today. And don't take this as a negative. I think we always hear from people who are talking to you at graduation, they'll say yes to your life, all these things. I'm going to actually say 4 things that are kind of no's, 4 things to deconstruct about what you're hearing for your future. To sort of say, I'm going to question that and reconsider how I'm going to take these things forward. So the first one is, there really is no such thing as failure. You can be under lots of pressure to do things well in the next couple of years. You can sort of have this really clear plan laid out for yourself, and somehow if you don't meet that benchmark, if you don't get to that goal by the time you're 25, that I'm going to be in law school, you're going to be deflated, you're going to be sad, you're going to feel like maybe I didn't do that well. Well, let me tell you about my background a little bit. I have probably failed at 6 or 7 careers, and I'm not even 40 yet. I left Sewanee planning to go into politics and go into law school. I was a field organizer for Al Gore's 2000 campaign. You can imagine working 18 months, 20 hours a day on Al Gore's campaign, and then winning the popular vote, and then having lost the electoral college, and then working with the Supreme Court to lose that election. That was the end of that career. Like, I was pretty much done with that career at that point. There was really no going back to that. I actually came and started working with Dixon at that point. And really, I thought I was licking my wounds. I come back to Sewanee. It was a place that I was comfortable. I'd worked with Dixon quite a lot as an undergraduate. But I don't think I realized how profound that experience with Dixon in the outreach office had been. So I came for 1 year thinking I'll go to law school. I took the LSAT. Stayed a second year. I saw my LSAT scores not good enough. I took the LSAT again. Stayed for a 3rd year with Dixon. Like, maybe I should take the LSAT again. It could get a little better. And then at some point you're going to have that realization, that I'm not going away from something else. I haven't left something else. I have come to something, and I have to realize what that something is and why it matters. And so without even getting started, I kind of failed in my career of being a lawyer. My career of being a lawyer really went no further than the LSAT at that point, and I'm happy with that. Who knows? Maybe something else down the road that moves forward. Toward the end of my time at Sewanee, I got involved with Yasmin Mohiuddin. Was very lucky to be engaged with her and her background in Bangladesh and India. Started working with Grameen Bank, with the Bangladesh Rural Advancement Committee. Had my first experiences in doing international development just as assisting Yasmin. Those were very powerful experiences to me. Learned a lot about how much innovation there is in the global south, how many new ideas come out of NGOs in the development community, sometimes that I wasn't really seeing in Appalachia. I'm from Fayetteville, Tennessee, an hour from here. I was seeing more interesting stuff happening in a village in Bangladesh than I was seeing in my own community in terms of ideas, trying new things, and that was very powerful to me. I was also very intrigued by the whole idea of the power of economics to make change. So when I left Sewanee, I left Dixon's office finally and went to the London School of Economics with this idea that I was going to become an economist and do lots of great things. I was in that program for about 6 weeks and realized that was not what I needed to be doing with my life. But as people have said in the morning, it's about learning. And I was really there to learn. I was auditing about 6 or 7 other classes in addition to my 4 classes for my program, and began to see that I was seeing all these people in the classes that I was auditing, and began to ask, are you guys in a program? All these things I've randomly selected from the course catalog, are these a program? And in fact, they were a program in social policy for international development. I joined that program and sort of found my way around to participatory research, and participatory action research, which has continued to be kind of the core piece of what I do. So again, kind of went in with one idea, within a couple of weeks it shifted to something else. I never became an economist, so let that one slide. I went on and got my PhD in international development with the idea of becoming an academic. working at a university. I graduated from my PhD, came to Sewanee for a year, worked at the Dean of Students office and said, no, maybe I don't want to be in this university. So I went to a different university and worked as a Dean of Research at a graduate school, worked for them for about a year and a half and said, no, I don't think I want to be at a university at all. So I kind of failed at that too and left the university space and started my own company. So what I've told you when I was sitting in your chair in 1999 or 1998, in November, October 1998, that I was going to have that career path, no, absolutely not. I'm not going to even be able to tell you where I'm going to be in 2 years. You know, I'm always sort of trying to come up with a new direction, doing something different. And I think that's the power of this learning, this idea that everybody said this morning, learning about learning. It's not about the content you've got in your classroom. What's powerful about Sewanee and the liberal arts education is that ability to learn about learning, to teach yourself how to learn and how to move forward. I mean, if you look at any of the people who are in this room, that's what they were open to. You're talking about Adrian's story of being just immediately thrown into the genocide in Rwanda, you know, from Peace Corps, and then back to Rwanda after the tragedy, running a nationwide program, all just in a couple of years. She didn't know that was going to happen when she left. For all of you, there's going to be these very powerful transitions and transformations, and they're going to feel really hard sometimes. They are going to feel like your heart is breaking, like Harvard Palmer says, it's shattering. But in fact, you're moving on to something else, and it's opening up something inside you, which is going to be really, really powerful. So when one of your dreams, you know, door closes, there's so many more doors out there. There's so many other windows you can crawl through. You know, I used to work with Dixon. Take a Sawzall and make a new door. Like, don't be bothered about what's not there. Make it happen. Create the thing that's not there if that's what your dream is. So I think I would also say in terms of this idea, like, for me, again, this is me speaking from my own experience, which I wouldn't say is the typical experience. It's a bit weird, but I think it's also probably a bit more about where you are now, 15 years later. Sometimes I feel like I'm more of a millennial than I was Generation X, just because of the career path that I've taken. So my second no is I'm not sure there is such a thing as a career anymore. One of the things I got out of working in the Global South is the idea of livelihoods, which means you live in a community where you don't have a job for the rest of your life. You have a package of activities that you do that generates an income for you. I don't have a job, but I have 20 things that I do that may be seasonal, that may be in different sectors, but I'm constantly working on creating a livelihood for myself. Now, for folks in poor rural communities, that really is about survival. But when I say there's no such thing as a career here, it really is about, you know, moving toward that thing of being able to find your commitment. What is it that really matters to you? Because the job is just a vehicle to your commitment. That's the privilege we have. We talk very negatively about our privilege. We can also turn that privilege into something positive, because how do we use our lives and the knowledge that we have, the capacities that we have to do good things. Last night, Dr. McConnell talked about happiness isn't something you pursue directly. Happiness is a byproduct of a commitment to a cause. And again, the job is not the cause. The organization you work for is not the cause. It is what you care about deep down inside that you commit to. And you heard that. Every single person who was here, they moved around, they've changed sectors. You know, talking about Haley's work, like, hers is about the cause. She's changed different organizations. She's found her path to that. It's very powerful. You know, you look at somebody like Brittany, she's combined ministry and social work because she sees that's the cause. One of those skills alone doesn't necessarily give her the opportunity that she wants. She has to find a synthesis of those things and how they come together for her. One of the greatest examples I've learned from working in the Global South is an example called field scattering. This was a practice that most indigenous people had for thousands of years. They would take fields, they would plant really small fields, 10 by 15 feet, and they would plant 20 of them, 30 of them. They would put them miles and miles apart all over the place. And of course, the Western industrial agriculturalists came in and said, well, that's a very stupid, inefficient thing to do. Why are you planting fields all over the place, different crops, different places, different elevations? Just put them one big field and plant it. It'll be great. You'll have so much more time to do other things. You'll get all this great food from it. And of course, as monocropping does, when there is a pest, when there is a problem with the weather, numerous other things, if there's a stampede of animals, if there's a hailstorm, if everything you have is in one basket, you know, suddenly you've lost the entire set of crops. And so after 20 years of the Western sort of horticulturalists saying this is the way to do it, they sort of said, oh, what was this thing that they were doing before? Let's call it field scattering and actually look at it. And they went back and did the regression analyses. Oh yeah, you would actually be able to mitigate all risk. You would need about about 24 fields and about 7 different forms of level, weather, different sort of variables that you would adjust for to minimize risk so you would not have a complete failure no matter if everything went to hell. You would always have something that worked. And they looked at historical patterns in communities. They typically had people would plant 27 fields. So without a regression analysis, without Excel, they got it right. So coming back to some of the points that I think you were making this morning about communities have the knowledge, trusting what community knowledge is, that's really a big piece. But I think that for us, that's also a piece. What is your field scattering? Not everything you're going to do is going to work out. Does that mean you're going to lose the connection to the thing that matters to you? Like, what is your vocation? Not what is your career? What is the commitment? What is the thing that matters to you? And how do you kind of move those pieces around so that when door closes, you're ready to jump into the next thing? And I think that, for me, is what's really, really important. And I think we're beginning to see that return to our way of thinking in the West as well. And I do a lot of work now with regenerative agriculture. My partner Ashley back there has really got me sort of going into this field around regenerative agriculture. And now we're rediscovering all these old sort of patterns in the West of how we did mosaic grazing. We didn't put cows in one big field. You moved them around a little bit every day, and then you put pigs in after them. You put chickens in after the pigs. It wasn't a field that was locked in. Everything was a grid that was constantly shifting, and that was actually regenerating and rebuilding things and rebuilding the soil. So again, what does that mean to us? Like we talk about burnout. Burnout, I think, is that sort of being that cattle in the same field every day, wearing it down. Prepare to move and do something different. Be able to move around. Be able to regenerate yourself, but maintain the commitment. I think it's possible to do those things, but it looks different than having a career. It's about something deeper down inside of you that comes from the heart. I think I would also pick up on Matthew's point from the last session. I don't know that really is such thing as a nonprofit career at this point. You look at so many people who are moving from sector to sector. Brooke, Swanford is she's now in the private sector after, a decade outside of Swanee, working in NGOs, working in education, working in academia. Now she's gone to the private sector. You're all going to move back and forth between these fields in your careers. But to Matthew's point around social enterprise, I'm not sure how viable the nonprofit model itself is in the long term. There are great people like Rhonda who are able to raise money for certain causes. Most people who run organizations aren't raising that kind of money. They're making it kind of month to month to meet payroll, to meet their program budgets. So I think more and more we're going to see these hybrid models like that Matthew's been talking about, that Yasmin Mohidin's been talking about, these social enterprise models that blend the sort of profit making and the social benefit all into one program. And even sort of this idea, coming to this idea of mosaic grazing, interlocking systems that are all within one larger organization. Probably most of you are familiar with Becca Stevens and Thistle Farms in Nashville. Another person that if you asked her in November, the year that she was going to graduate, what she was going to do, I don't think she thought she was going to start a nonprofit / business enterprise / global network for women's cooperatives to deal with sex trafficking and violence against women. She did not know that was going to happen. So even when she started Magdalene House, which worked with trafficked women, it was a nonprofit. But it was hard to raise enough money for that. So after a decade of doing that, she started the Thistle Stop Cafe and Thistle Farms to raise money to the Bath and Body Works product line. That now make over $1 million a year through this one product line, which supports the nonprofit. And now they've also branched into a global sphere now, where they're working with women's cooperatives all over Africa to provide the essential oils and other raw materials for their different Bath and Body Works products. They come from Thistle Farm. So this idea that you're going to work in nonprofit is probably a good place to start. But keep your mind open to the organization that you're working with. It's probably going to have multiple dimensions happening. You're going to be playing multiple roles, being asked to think in different spheres, not just the nonprofit, but also in the business, in the corporate sphere, the profit-making sphere, as Matthew acknowledged, because sometimes it really is about the sustainability of your organization. If the sustainability is about making a profit, that's important. That's not a bad thing. That's not a bad word. It keeps the doors open. It keeps you providing those services, and those things are really important. I think also just sort of leapfrogging off of this point of Thistle Farms and Becca Stevens, some of you may remember, he's probably a little bit old for you now, but there was a folk singer from Asheville named David Wilcox, who used to come to Swanee quite a lot in the 90s. He had this great song about sort of war, global war, and it was called No More Far Away. And I think more and more we live in a time where there is no more far away. If you look at so many of our colleagues who spoke in the panels this morning, They went from Sewanee directly into an international line of work, and Peace Corps, other kinds of activities, NGOs of different kinds, Youth Service Corps, different things. They lived this international life. They came back to the U.S. to continue their education, to continue their careers, but it wasn't a black and white thing. You know, Lizzie's still working with Moldova. That's a very clear part of her identity and her work. You know, Brooke has continued to work in Russia with her Russian studies degree in different forms, in Siberia, in Moscow. These things continue to work with you. When I worked with Margita in India and Bangladesh 12 years ago, I didn't expect that I would be going back to India almost every year, continuing some of those relationships, even teaching a course on social enterprise, which I didn't really anticipate. You know, these things continue to grow and flourish. So in that sense, I think if you have this idea that I have to choose between the domestic and the local, or the global and the international, you don't. It's all together. You're not going to be able to get away from it. In fact, those of you who are thinking about how your impact is global, that's where you have to be. Because those of those folks who haven't thought about how their impact is global, how their work is global, they're going to find their way to it. Because everything is connected. Everything you do, whatever field you're working in, it has international dimension. And just to sort of pick up on that too, go now. Go see the world. Go engage with the world. You're young. You're at the right age. As of 2010, more than 50% of the world's population is below the age of 25. You're below the age of 25. In the U.S., we have this great sort of affinity for the baby boomers. You are the global baby boomers. You are part of this amazing generation that is shifting the generational sort of balance in the world. And you have things like Facebook, and you have LinkedIn, you have all these ways of creating networks that are not, I was in Bangladesh for 2 weeks. I don't know any of these people anymore. No, they're on your LinkedIn every day. They're on your Facebook every day. You go spend a month there every year. You still have these connections. You can do projects together globally. These networks that you can make with people of your own generation. As you rise up through your organizations, as you create things, you'll be able to continue to cooperate and build with them and build these kind of global strategies, these global alliances for change, which are incredibly powerful, and further that idea, that commitment, that deep thing that you have inside you, that you build your team, you build your alliance, your networks of people who help you do that in such a broad way. So again, this idea, there is no far away, there is no career, there is no just nonprofit, there is no failure. Try it all, believe in what you can do, believe in the people who are here to support you, like Dixon, Lisa, Kim, Jim, Nikki, all these people who are fantastic, all of Sewanee, all these alums, all these networks. Continue to do those things. Continue to believe in what they can do, what they can help you to do, and how you can also give back to them. I think one of the other sort of quiet lessons here is that Sewanee is what Sewanee is, not just because of the money that alumni get back to it, but it's the sort of love and the care for you all as students that alumni get back to it. So as you begin to think about what you're going to do, even next year, it was great to see so many recent alumni who were just out a couple of years ago. Lacey, you know, you're back. You're giving back to this place. And that's true of all the places that have given to you. It's time now to already start thinking about how you give back to the community where you grew up, to the church where you grew up, to wherever, to the university where you came from. You know, give those things back. All right, I think 9 minutes left, so that's good. Not too bad. So those were the kind of 4 points I wanted to make. I don't know if there was enough synthesis there of what we talked about this morning, but you know, be excited. Don't be too anxious. Get ready to break the rules. This is going to be a rule-changing epoch in humanity in so many ways. So don't be guided by the old sort of lines about things. All these lines are eroding and changing very quickly, and you'll find your way. It may not feel like a clear path, but it never was a clear path. It was always going to be complicated. It was always going to be fun. You were always going to be Dante coming to yourself midway through the journey of your life in a dark wood. You hear that line in Sewanee. At some point, you figure out what it means in real life too, because there's a lot of dark woods and a lot of fog out there. But it's still pretty awesome. It's a great journey. Thank you for letting me kind of rattle on about these ideas. Anybody have any questions? We've got about 7 or 8 minutes left before we need to break. We go back to afternoon sessions, and I'm happy to take a couple of questions. So thank you guys. Good luck with the rest of your time in Sewanee. Relax, enjoy it, enjoy being here, make all the connections that you can, and enjoy the people who've been your mentors. But know that they're going to be here for you when you come back. Even if they're retired, they're still going to be in Sewanee. It's hard to get out of Sewanee. It's a bit addictive. So they'll probably still be here before us. So I wish you all the best and look forward to chatting with you this afternoon. Thanks.